Today we got you an Eternus tier list to let you know what to play to climb those ranks. Alright everybody, Incon here coming at you with a Deadlock tier list. All of the new round of heroes have now come out, and they've had a significant chance to be buffed and nerfed, and people have learned to play with them and against them and as them and all that good stuff. So I figured this is a good time to do an updated tier list so you have an idea of who is performing well and who you should be playing. Couple of caveats to note with the tier list, just so you kind of know where the headspace is. One of the classic things with tier lists you always see is, okay, but what about X at my Y rank? And what about this and that? So, to confirm, this is going to be a tier list that does not take into account competitive, because that is not relevant to the average player. This is going to be what is performing and working at high-level Eternus gameplay, right? So the highest level of in-game gameplay. So this is going to be mostly a tier list focused at who is performing at E1 through E6, performing in high-level games. So if you get really, really good and you grind really hard, these are the characters that are currently doing well that you can expect to be able to continue to do well on throughout all of your ranks. Maybe you're playing a character right now that is good at your rank, but they drop off later in the game. And so this will be a good way for you to know. This tier list is also going to utilize both statistics, which are important. So like things like character's win rate, but it is also going to include how good a character can be in the right hands, even if those right hands is only 10 or 20 players that are rocking Eternus games. So their win rate is maybe lower than you would think, even though when they're played like absolute premium, it's fantastic and they're better. And it's also going to take into account like how much fun it is, how frustrating it is to play with and against these characters, because that does also matter. Because if your teammates are constantly getting tilted at playing against a character, which causes them to play poorly or causes them to rage quit, like that kind of stuff does affect your games, right? So starting right off the bat then with Abrams. Abrams is and continues to be one of the best heroes in the game in Eternus. I will do my best as well, guys, to align these tier lists from left to right. So S being the best characters, D being the worst characters, and I'll try to also align them from left being stronger to right being weaker within the tiers as best as I can. And those might shift around as we're doing the tier list and adding more heroes. For the most part, S tier characters are going to be, you can pick them every single game. It's never going to be a bad pick. D tier characters, for the most part, are going to be like, you should probably never pick these characters right now. They're probably more of a hindrance than a help. But Abrams, one of the best heroes in the game. Incredible 1v1 potential, and he fulfills the tank role. Tanks are really good right now. Frontline tanky characters are doing really well, and also making sure that you have preferably 2 frontline characters on your team is so massively helpful for your composition that queuing up for tanks is really nice right now, because a lot of people, particularly the new round of heroes, is basically squishy characters. And because everybody's playing them, it means that there's a lot of squishy on the map right now. Speaking of new squishy characters, Apollo's an interesting one. I think people have very differing opinions on him right now. I'm going to put him down here in B tier. He is performing okay in Eternus games. He is not like a throw pick, but he's also not great. He's towards the bottom of the 10 win rates right now in Eternus, but I do think partially that is because he's quite difficult to play, and I think it's partially because he drops off super hard in the late game. But if you snowball early to mid game with him, he can be quite viable, and he's a fun character, and he's frustrating for the enemy to play against. Bebop is a frustrating character to play against, but honestly, from a balance perspective, he's honestly pretty balanced. extraordinarily annoying to play against. Easily the character that's going to make your teammates rage the most. Also, very likely, if somebody gets pulled a couple of times early and dies, that's like when the intentional feeding kicks in. I feel like Bebop really kicks that in for people. But he is solidly okay right now. Realistically, this is not a bad balance spot for Bebop. But if you're asking me if I like to play against him, of course I don't, because he's Bebop. But just from a pure balance standpoint, he's actually not that crazy. And so he's going to go right there in that B tier. Billy's a good hero. Yeah. Billy's a good hero. He's not as strong as he once was. He used to be like the tippity top of the game, right? Like he used to just kind of like run over people. He's actually not performing as strong as you would think. He's actually closer towards the bottom of the win rates. But Billy is one of those heroes where even an Eternus level player oftentimes on Billy will make early mistakes. They'll W key, they'll punch too many times and get parried, they'll get out of position, right? But when you're seeing really serious level gameplay from Billy, people are taking the match seriously, they're building correctly, all that stuff. You still see good Billy performances, and he's a tanky character, so having him as a frontline is actually quite nice. Once again, providing more of that tankiness to your team, which really cannot be overstated how good the tankiness is right now. Calico is a surprising one. It's surprising that she doesn't do better. I'm going to put her down here in this B tier right now. She does have the ability to 100 to 0 if you're not careful. But the thing about Calico at high level is slowing hex exists. And if you just buy slowing hex against Calico, she just doesn't play the game anymore. She has to buy the debuff remover, which is now Dispel Magic, which isn't nearly as good as it used to be. So she has to buy a 3200 item to counter the 1600 item, and your team can just buy 2 or 3 slowing hexes. Do that against Apollo as well, and she can't really play the game, so she suffers from that. But a fed Calico is a problem. We've all played against a fed Calico, and when she 2s on you and then gets a light punch in and then presses her cold front and her ulti and all those buttons go off at the exact same time, feels kind of bad. Feels kind of bad. Celeste. Celeste is a V strong in the right hands. Definitely the strongest of all the new heroes added. As far as her win rate goes, she's actually closer to the middle of the pack, like middle upper on the win rates. But objectively speaking, her kit is disgusting. When you get Celeste out of the early game and into the mid-game team fights, she is always a hero you would like to have on her team. Extremely good damage output, extremely disruptive in the fights, huge AoEs, surprisingly difficult to kill because of the movement in her kit, is simply one of the best heroes in Deadlock right now. Doorman. They call it D for Doorman because Doorman is poo-poo. Doorman had a couple of metas where he was doing really good. He had like a spirit build for a while that was really strong, and then Gun Doorman became a thing, and then there was a little bit of like supporty Doorman, and then there was some like cheese with the urn. He's gone through a lot of phases, and now he's in the I suck phase. He's in the I got nerfed so many times, like people kept finding fun builds for me, and then they got nerfed, and now there's no more fun builds for me, and I don't do anything. Best case scenario for Doorman, you get to late game, and you have a door in your base, and you have a door outside of your base as your base is being assaulted, and you vortex web them, and you push their entire team into your base. That's like the whole Doorman play right now. Not particularly dynamic. Drifter, we're going to put up here in the top of A tier. Drifter's win rate in Eternus, I think, would surprise people. I think a lot of people consider him to be a pub stomper, and that's kind of true, but like pub in the form of literally just playing without queuing up with other teammates, not like pub as in low-level gameplay. even a high-level gameplay, Drifter is stomping right now. His early game is really, really strong, which allows him to get off on the right foot. And then you just have an absolutely great gun carry running around and assassinating people. He gets a little bit tanky as well, like getting a life strike and stuff on Drifter, getting a couple of melee items, makes him surprisingly tanky, and his ulti will always be good for team fights. It's extremely disruptive, and without high-level communication, his ulti goes from being like a pretty good ability to a disgustingly good ability. Dynamo down here in B tier. He is viable at Eternus. The thing about Dynamo is you always have the opportunity for a big fat black hole that turns the game around. The problem is his laning phase kind of sucks. His gun build isn't good anymore. So you got to go a classic support, big black hole Dynamo build. It's okay, but supporting right now is in a pretty rough spot outside of Page we'll get to later. Supports are not in a great spot right now. You're oftentimes better off just playing a frontline tank than you are like a classic true MOBA support right now. Graves. Graves isn't great. She's not a throw pick per se, but she is very... she's kind of rare, honestly, in the Eternus games. You don't see a ton of Graves. I would say she's one of the least played of the new heroes at high level. Graves does a lot better, a lot better. First try. In lower levels. But her laning phase is actually not good. The fun thing about Graves is that Graves' laning phase is actually not good. And in high-level gameplay, she actually gets bullied in lane quite a lot. What you're going to actually see in Eternus-level gameplay is you're going to see a lot of people embrace ulti builds with her. Like really extended duration and cooldown and like leveling up the ulti. And you get a lot of map pressure with her ultimate in a similar way to like Rems 3, but just better with the zombies. And that seems to be like the viable build for her, which is extraordinarily boring and one of the reasons why I don't particularly play her right now. If there's a world where she gets buffed a little bit and like a more like gunny capacitor build becomes viable, I think that would be fun. But right now you see a lot of just ultimate builds on her to use her to split push. Super boring. Grey Talon is still towards the bottom of the win rates, right? Like he's like hovering around the bottom 10 win rates, but he is actually viable. GT does good damage right now. I still highly recommend you go a spirit build over a gun build. I don't think a gun build is like a D tier, but I do think spirit build for him is B tier and a gun build is like C tier. You're better off just picking a lot of the other gun characters in order to get gun damage on your team. If you randomly get into a game and all of a sudden you have 6 spirit characters, you can flex into gun at least if you absolutely have to, but preferentially you wouldn't. Grey Talon does really, really well until super ultra late in the game when everybody has their spirit resiliences and their spell breakers online, and that's when he drops off again. But throughout like the first 30 minutes of the game, he does really well, and most games out of Eternus are decided honestly within the first 20 minutes. So being good for 30 is plenty. Hayes is one of the strongest carries in the game right now. Going to put her towards the bottom of S tier right now. At high level gameplay, as far as carries go, you see a lot of Drifter, right? Because Drifter kind of fulfills that like gun carry role, even though he's more of an assassin, but he still fulfills that gun carry role. You see a lot of Hayes and you see a lot of Warden. Those 3 are kind of like the triangle of gun characters right now that you really see going for carries at high level. Warden and Drifter probably don't fulfill like the traditional MOBA ADC in the way that you would think about like a Hayes or a Wraith, but Hayes is disgustingly good right now. Laning phase, really strong, really good into so many characters, fixation to so much damage early. So she doesn't have any problems early. She gets great into the farm. A lot of solid builds on her right now. A lot of solid builds on her. A lot of options for you. And the classic, like, slowing Hex Capacitor, 6 seconds if you can't move is plenty of time for Haze to kill you on cooldown. Once again, another character that, like, the better your team's communication, the worse Haze gets. But even at Eternus level gameplay, still not a lot of comms going on a lot of the time, so she roams around and gets a lot of action. Holiday has not been doing amazing. Not a throw pick by any means, but Holiday has been doing okay. Anecdotally, she's not getting played a ton. You don't see a lot of her anymore. Mo is just vastly the superior version kind of the Holiday right now. Honestly, even Bebop feels like it's better than Holiday because it's more oppressive in the laning phase. She's also difficult to play, and a lot of people in Eternus like play their couple of mains and they don't play anything else. So you got to factor that in as well. So it takes time to learn her, but she's okay right now. The worst character in the game, without a doubt, no question. Arguably one of the only throw picks in Deadlock right now is Infernus. I don't know if Doorman is a throw pick, but he feels close to a throw pick. Holiday, kind of the same thing. You know, she's like right at the verge of that tier. Infernus is atrocious. I mean, like, really bad. Not good at all. He has been nerfed too many times. To be fair, Infernus spent a lot of time in the sun. He spent plenty of time in S tier. He spent plenty of time in A tier. And he is finally down at the bottom. He is the worst win rate character in the game. And when you see an Infernus on your team, it genuinely hurts. Like, if a team has Infernus on it right now, their chance of winning probably drops 10% instantaneously. Like, assuming that the matchmaking is perfect, right, and it's 50-50 right down the middle, the team that has Infernus probably immediately has a 10% worse chance to win, just right off the bat, which is awful. Ivy is doing quite good right now. You're seeing a lot of Ivy high-level gameplay. I'm going to put Ivy up here in this kind of A tier right here around Drifter. Ivy is not a character that I particularly enjoy, but you're seeing several different viable builds on Ivy right now, but the most common is you're seeing a little bit more of a spirit supporties type Ivy. Some people still rock the gun, like capacitor Tesla bullet style Ivy, but it's actually not as popular right now as the spirit build and getting like big ultis and big silences. Vortex Web plus Ivy ult and the Kudzu bomb is really gnarly. If you get the Mystic expansion and you get the Vortex Web, that combo with Ivy, even if you only hit 2 or 3 people, essentially means in the team fight, those 2 or 3 people just die. Really strong laning phase, one of the best minion clears in the game. Really good at securing last hits. Ivy just a solid character right now. Really solid. Speaking of not solid characters, though, shout out to Kelvin. Kelvin is down here kind of probably in throw pick territory. I do play Kelvin from time to time still because I really like Kelvin. But he is basically the least picked hero in Deadlock. I think Kelvin might be picked less than Infernus, even though I think his win rate is technically like 1% better or whatever. But Kelvin and Infernus basically don't get played at all, and it's because they don't win at all. They're just really bad characters. Fire and Ice, they are both garbage. There's nothing that Kelvin does that is good enough to warrant picking him. And that's, at the end of the day, just he doesn't bring anything to the table. His laning phase isn't good enough, and he spends too much time running away, trying not to die. Geist going to be down here in the C tier as well. Geist, another character that spent a good amount of time in the sun. She had her metas where she was very strong. She doesn't have any amazing builds right now. Her early game used to be really, really strong. It is still a decent early game, but it's not as good as it used to be, and she's really slow. Geist being a really, really slow character right now in this meta of very, very fast characters is problematic. She's just too slow for the meta that we are in right now. It's too hard for her to secure kills. Her ulti range isn't long enough. It just got nerfed one too many times. It would not be crazy to me to see pretty small buffs to Geist bring her back up to A tier. But in her current stage with her speed and her stamina and the length of her abilities, outside of like her bombs still being very strong early, she drops off pretty hard. The Lash is crushing it. Lash is somewhere in this like probably top of A tier, like right around here-ish. Very, very good. Not quite an S tier character, but having a Lash on your team is always a good fit. One of the reasons why he works so well right now is there's never a time when you don't want Lash on your team. His ulti is always good for secure. His laning phase with leveling the slam is always good. It's always annoying. You have to play back at your tower. Incredible ganks. Very good movement. Very good at catching up to the faster characters right now. Solid meta for Lash. McGinnis is a weird one because you would think with McGinnis's kit that you would think she would be kind of an all or nothing character, and McGinnis is very okay. Like, I'd put McGinnis basically around here-ish. She's super okay. You don't see a ton of McGinnis getting played right now in Eternus. She's down there in pick rates with like Calvin and Infernus. But when she actually gets played, it's not too shabby. Like, she does okay. Like, she has, her wall is just a good ability. Her ulti is crap. Her heal will always be good. And turrets are always annoying. And if you place turrets around the map and you put them near the jumps, she stuns people off of them and it does bonus damage. And she sets up well for base defenses. And she's not like an amazing character, but she's solid. She is solid. Now, Mina is an interesting one because Mina was really, really good for a really, really long time. And Mina has kind of dropped off lately, and she does not provide the same amount of oomph that she used to in Eternus. She still gets picked an okay amount right now, but as far as how good she is, her and Calico, I would say, are very similar to me. In that when they get ahead early, they do a lot of damage for a good amount in the game, right? When their early game goes wrong, because the whole thing that they provide is damage, it kind of is reliant on them being even or positive in souls, and they're both really annoying to catch. They kind of play similarly in that regard. Now, Mirage. Mirage is a weird character to rate in a tier list. Because here's the deal with Mirage. Here's the deal. There is like 10 Mirage players. When played properly, went on like a real E6 team, right? Not even like an E1 team, like an E6 team. And people are communicating, and the composition is kind of right. Mirage is an S tier character, right? He just is. But in your average, even Eternus lobby, the average Eternus player, given the average random team that is made and put together, given the average level of comms, Mirage is actually closer to being down in C tier. And it's so hard to describe the difference between those two things, but you know them as soon as you get into the game. When you're in a game where the team is working together and you're properly getting the split push off with Mirage, and he gets to late game and he gets his ricochet and his toxic bullets and his silencer and his inhibitor, he becomes this giant AoE damage CC bot. And his laning phase is really strong, and he free farms, all of those things. The problem is Mirage still just doesn't do that most of the time. And because it is also reliant on getting to a solid mid/late game on Mirage when he really gets to thrive after he gets all of his souls going, it also means that you can't just have your other two lanes feed their brains out, which even at Eternus is not a given, right? Plenty of times you're like, okay, we won our lane, and you look over and their silver's 12-0, the game's already over. That still just happens, and there's nothing that Mirage can do about it at that point. So Mirage is probably the one hero on this tier list that if you're like, Incon, he's an S tier hero, I would be like, I totally get that, and you're totally right in certain circumstances. He's probably the one that has the biggest change in how good he is, depending on like how niche at the top do you want to rate him, which is also why Mirage has been a staple in Deadlock competitive since ever. Mo, and I am very happy to say this. I am very pleased to say this. Mo's an S tier character. Mo is one of the best heroes in Deadlock right now. And honestly, the reason why he is one of the best heroes in the game right now is that Mo is extremely good against basically all of the new heroes. Mo is a counter pick to basically all of the new heroes they put in Deadlock, and all of the new heroes in Deadlock are played really often because they're new, right? Regardless of how good they are, they're new. But Mo makes people stand still. So Rem can't get into minions. Celeste can't jump around like a horsey. Venator gets disarmed and can't press any of his buttons. Apollo stands still and can't press any of his buttons, right? He really is so good against all of the new heroes. And because you're guaranteed the enemy team is going to probably have 2 or 3 of them, it just means that he is so consistently a good pick right now. He's almost the equivalent of having a real picks and bans and having a counter pick because he counter picks all the new heroes. Paige is the only support right now that I would put nearly towards S tier. I'm not going to put her quite there yet because she is still a support. She's not quite in the top 5 win rates. Paige is the best support in Deadlock, and it's not particularly close. There's an argument as well with the Ivy, but Ivy I would not argue is a true support. I would say Ivy and Mo are more similar, where it's like support adjacent heroes. Paige is like an honest to God, real deal Deadlock support. Her kit is a lot like Abrams to me, where Abrams' kit is always going to be good. They can basically nerf the numbers as much as they want, but he's got a good kit. He's got a kit that has a stun and regen and lifesteal and regen and movement and regen and stun. Like, you have that kit, it's always going to be good. For Paige, it's the same thing. She has lane clear and shields and roots and stuns and heals, and it's just a good kit. Regardless of what the numbers are in her kit, it's just good individual abilities. All of them. And if you have 4 individually good abilities, you're basically just a good hero. The only exception to that rule is like if all you do as a character is damage and your damage has been nerfed so far into the floor that you don't do any damage, which is what we call the Freya problem for our old Smite folks. That's a very specific DPS problem. But outside of characters who all they do is damage, as long as you've got a good 4 abilities, you're going to be fine. Paradox is another weird one. Paradox is another character that gets played quite a bit at like really high level gameplay, like competitive and stuff. But in Eternus, he does very okay. Paradox is very okay. One of the reasons why I'd rather have a Paradox on my team than a Bebop. I'd rather have Apollo than a Bebop. Switch that around. Switch you around. One of the reasons why Paradox is a problem, even at Eternus, is that it kind of comes down to what we were talking about with Mirage, which is Paradox is really, really good at setting people up, right? Really good at setting your team up. I'm rotating to your lane. I am going to ulti them. They are standing by you, and you didn't help me. That still continues to be a problem for Paradox. Paradox is also just difficult to play, even at Eternus level gameplay. People's movement gets better, right? Celeste is just generically hard to hit. The more people are moving and jumping and shaking, they're harder to hit. You have to kind of blow Paradox's entire kit in order to get it started. But still viable, still decent, but not a character that's going to carry through your games. Pocket. Pocket is good. Not amazing. Not a super... Pocket goes through a lot of metas where they're like S tier. Right now, Pocket is maybe bottom of A tier, top of B tier, you know. I'll put him like top of B tier for now. Pocket is good. Pocket's ultimate is nice. Good character against Shiv, who you're going to see a lot at Eternus. You're going to see a lot of Shiv. Even though Shiv's win rate is garbage, you're going to see a lot of Shiv. Good team fight. Good mid contest with Pocket. Not too bad of laning phase. Not an amazing laning phase, but not too bad. Jungle clear ends up being amazing. A little 100% committing, right? Pocket does damage and is hard to catch. So Pocket kind of falls, honestly, into that Mina Calico territory where if you get behind a Pocket, because the thing that you do is damage, if you fall behind an itemization, you really just don't do the damage anymore. And then it's just kind of like, what are you doing? The good news for Pocket is that Affliction is always good. Even when you're behind, if you land a 5-man Affliction, that's a big problem for the enemy team. Always has that going for him. So, Rem. I don't really know what to do with Rem because I am personally biased. I really enjoy Rem. I think Rem is a fun character. I think that their kit is pretty cool. I think that they're a decently solid character. But statistically speaking, Rem kind of sucks. But also, I think that Rem is a support. And I think that support is by far the least popular role in Deadlock. Which means that even at Eternus level, you've got people playing him who don't play supports, who don't know what they're doing, which really lowers his win rate. So, just so you know, Rem has a bottom 5 Eternus win rate. His win rate is in the bottom 5, to be clear. But I don't think he's actually a bottom 5 hero, because I do think that he gets played so much by people who don't normally play supports. I am going to put him up in B tier. I think that as far as supports go, he's probably the second best option after Paige for a true, real deal, actual, factual support. But he is difficult to play. He does take time. He's very squishy. You have to position correctly. Because you're a support, it doesn't mean you ain't going to carry the game by yourself. You absolutely need your team to follow up on your abilities. You have to communicate with your team solidly. Let them know what's happening. Let them know people are going to sleep. You got to learn some of the box routes. You got to be timing the sinners. Not an easy character to play, but I do think when played really, really properly, he can still be a good character. He can still be a good character. You know? 7. So 7 is kind of the opposite of Rem in that I think that Rem is a little bit better than his really, really bad win rate would dictate. And I think that 7 is a little worse than his really, really good win rate would dictate. But I don't think I can possibly put 7 outside of S tier, given the fact that he has the number 1 win rate in Eternus. If you're asking me if I didn't have any of the stats, what I would rate 7, I would put him at probably mid A tier. But given that 7 has the number 1 win rate in Eternus, how can you not put him in the top tier of characters for ranked? Like, even the higher level gameplay you get with 7, typically he gets a little bit worse and a little bit more counterable. But at the end of the day, he's the only hero in Deadlock right now with over a 55% win rate. So his zappy ass has to be an S tier. It just has to be. You can't, as much as I would love to, personal opinion him down a tier, I just can't. Statistically, he's too good. I don't know what to say. I will, however, be adjusting Shiv, who was maybe the perfect comparison to 7. Shiv has been in the bottom 5 win rates in Eternus for forever. Extremely long time. Shiv has been in the bottom 5 win rates. If you ask any Eternus player how good they think Shiv is, they're going to tell you that Shiv is one of the best heroes in the game. So I am going to put a little bit of a squeeze on that, and I'm going to put Shiv towards the bottom or so here of A tier. Statistically speaking, he is like bottom 3 win rates, and he basically has been for months. When you go against like a real deal E6 Shiv player, you think to yourself, well, I'm dead. Like, the dagger hits you as an auto comes out, and you get Mystic Shot and Cold Fronted, and you're getting Headshot boosted, and he buys all green items, and he's got 4,000 HP at the 2-minute marker. It's just a very, honestly, Shiv is Bebop. Shiv is Bebop. They're so frustrating to play against that even if statistically they're not that good, it's impossible to entirely separate the statistics of a character from the vibes of how that character makes you feel. Those 2 characters above all else, I think, really fall into like yeah, man, I know technically I've got a good chance to win the game against him, but I'm not going to have any freaking fun while I'm doing it. Silver. Okay. So here's the thing with Silver. I actually think that Silver is probably a better hero at slightly lower ranks, and I think that Silver is a little bit of a trap. Silver is not bad by any means. She is not a bad character. She's gone through some buffs and nerfs and buffs and nerfs. She's actually gotten a lot of changes, maybe the most changes of any of the new heroes. A lot of people seem to think that she's the best hero in the game, and I just do not agree with that. A lot of people are like, she's garbage and you should never play her. I also don't agree with that. I think that Silver is probably right here in this A tier. Solidly good character. She's not free low. You do have to land your shots. You have to land your abilities. But if you can put Silver behind early in the game, she is one of those characters who, what does she do? She does damage. So if she gets behind, Particularly for Silver, this is a problem because her transform, as you get later and later in the game, does get more difficult because it is based on the amount of damage that she's doing. So if you fall too far behind in your itemization, especially if you have to start buying tank items, it takes you longer to transform. Taking longer to transform means you can get picked off easier. Still a good character. Not as busted as she was. She was like #1 character in the game for a day, and then she got nerfed, and she was like really far down here, and now she's kind of back up here. She's had some crazy swings in her like month in the game. Next up, we got ourselves a Sinclair, folks. Sinclair. Honestly, a decently balanced character. Somewhere like in like this range. Sinclair, pretty much smack dab in the middle. Win rate rise, pretty smack dab in the middle. Magicians are going more of a damage spirit build compared to a support build or like a punch build or anything like that right now. You're seeing really big nukes with the 1 from downtown. You're seeing really big bunnies for team fights around the urn and the mid-boss. And of course, you're watching him steal everybody's ulti, and then he steals, like if you steal Silver's ulti with Sinclair, you turn into the wolf, and then you legitimately have like 0 cooldown. Because his ult cooldown is like a quicker version of their ult cooldown, and her ult cooldown is basically nothing. It means that his is more nothing, so it's just like instantly back up again. Super interesting. It also means that if they have some busted ultis on their team, you've got some busted ultis on your team. So he is interesting. He is hard to play. He is very high level. But he is viable. He is viable. Venator. Venator is interesting because, once again, he's a new hero. New heroes have really, really high pick rates. Really, really high pick rates lowers heroes' win rates. Okay? They just do. Rem has one of the highest pick rates of new heroes. Is the reason why he has a bottom 5 win rate. Venator, people love playing a vampire hunting priest. He has a really high pick rate, even amongst the new heroes. It's him and Rem, basically. But Venator is very good right now. Very consistent. Him and Silver are basically right up here with each other, up in A tier. He is a solid hero. He has got both the ability to go more of a bomb build, which I do think is his best build, or more of kind of a punch build right now. Both are fairly viable. But going a big grenade build right now around team fights is crazy. His mid-boss fight is disgusting. His base defense is good. His base assault is good. His 1v1 is very good. His laning phase is okay. But his team fight is strong. His 1v1 is strong. Hell, his 1v2 is strong. He does take some time to learn and get used to his abilities. His shotgun can be a little buggy. So you got to be careful with that. But presumably that'll get more consistent as well. I would not be surprised after a bunch of people stop playing Venator and his pick rate goes down to normal. Like a normal character pick rates are like 30%. New hero pick rates are basically all above 50%. His is closer to 70%. When your pick rate is that high, inevitably your win rate is going to suffer for it. Then we have Victor. Victor, I'm going to put him up here, probably towards the bottom of A tier still. You're going to see there's a lot of thick lads in these top tiers, right? Abrams, Mo. Lash actually gets pretty tanky. Silver, Venator is pretty tanky. Shiv, Billy, Victor. There is a lot right now of pressure that having extra frontline gives your team. A lot of the tankier characters in Deadlock right now simply have better win rates. Those better win rates are reflected because giving your team frontline pressure is really strong right now. You get a lot of damage off of 4-point AK spikes as well, and through base damage. So you'll see a lot of these heroes get a lot of green items, maybe just hit a 4-point AK spike in spirit or gun or both, and then just kind of run at people. and forcing the enemy team to use 2, 3, 4 ultis on you, even if you die, oftentimes is just a good trade deal for your team, which then allows your Haze, your Seven, your Drifter, your whatever to just kind of go on a rampage without having to worry about as many enemy ultimates and actives. Vindicta! Vindicta is not good. She's not a throw pick, but she is pretty bad. They changed Vindicta's ulti. For those that don't recall, it used to give you bonus souls when you got the last hit on Vindicta ult. It no longer does that. It gives you bonus gun damage, and when you get the third round of upgrades on her ulti, it increases the gun damage that it gives you by 4%. That 4% increase on every snipe kill is retroactive, which is cool. So it allows you to get... allows you to wait a little bit longer on putting that third point in until around the mid game. So you already hopefully have 5 or 6 snipe kills, so you can instantly get like a 20+% gun damage buff. But the problem with Vindicta is she's still good in the early game, right? She still has a good laning phase. Her snipe still does a ton of damage throughout the early and mid. Late game, her snipe becomes basically useless. What they're trying to seemingly do with Vindicta is, it seems that Valve wants her to be snipe dependent early, which is fine, and then transfer into a gun character. The problem is that Vindicta can't really transfer into a gun character most games because 1, it requires a shit ton of souls, which she now doesn't get on her ulti. And 2, you've already put this investment into Spirit, and you can't really put investment into Spirit and Gun directly, just those 2, because you have to have green items. Green items in Deadlock are the best items, and they are universal, which means that typically you invest into Gun plus Vitality or Spirit plus Vitality. So they want Vin to invest in basically Vitality and Spirit, which leaves her super susceptible on the Vitality front, which is just not really viable right now. And what you'd prefer to do is the opposite, as you can see by the tier list with the tankier characters. You would rather get a lot more green items and then a little bit of the Spirit or the Gun, whatever is better for your hero, compared to going harder into Spirit plus Gun and then little into Vitality. If there's a meta shift where like green items get nerfed across the board, Vindicta could skyrocket to the very top because she's an insanely good user of Gun and Spirit items. It's just that Vitality items are so strong, it's like, how are you not going to get green items? Goober's balanced right now. When you see a good Goober, they're quite good right now. Goober has unfortunately been kind of pigeonholed into one build right now. Originally, there was a lot of Spirit Goobers way back in the day. He got transferred over to a Gun build. Gun Goober got nerfed into the floor, and now it's a punch build. Very much Goober revolving around your 3. Getting punch items, rapid recharge, the item that refreshes your one of your punches, and just punching people to death. Does a lot of damage, does a lot of displacement. Pretty safe for yourself. You're going to see a lot of high-level Goober players embracing that punch build. It is solid. It can be countered by a rebuttal. You can parry more often, that kind of stuff. But Goober is actually, I think, in a good spot right now. For the most part, these B-tier heroes is kind of like around probably where you want the balance of the game to be, right? If you're below B tier, this is probably too weak, and if you're above it, this is like too strong kind of thing. Obviously, there's always going to be counter matchups, and X hero beats Y hero because of the nature of their kits and stuff, and there's always going to be certain exceptions like Shiv. An average Shiv player, even in Eternus, is going to be pretty garbage, but like the top tier Shiv players, I'll make it feel like you can't even play the game. Same thing with like a Mirage, where Mirage is going to be a super big problem when it's like the top 5 Mirage players with a perfect team, but like the average Mirage player is not going to have enough time to get the game going, right? All right. Then we move into Viper. Viper, another interesting one. Viper, I would say, is over here in the B tier as well. Somewhere, honestly, smack dab, like in the middle of B tier. Maybe like not quite as good as Paradox, but you know, like right around here. Viper is, I would say, Viper might be the hero that is the most better than their pick rate, if that makes sense. Like, of all the heroes in Deadlock, for the most part, when a hero is stronger, they get picked more, and when a hero is worse, they get picked less. That's a general trend. It's obviously not a one-to-one, but like, you expect to see more Mo and Krills and Drifters and Abrams in your games than you probably see Doormans and Kelvins and Infernuses. And if you're talking about Eternus level, this is absolutely true, right? Kelvin's got a 9% pick rate. Doorman, 11%. Infernus, 13%. Compared to Abrams, has a 50% pick rate. Drifter has a 50% pick rate, you know? So you see them get picked more because they win more, and when you win more, people want to play the better characters. Viper is actually in the upper echelon of the wins, but he only has a 13% pick rate. Really, really low pick rate for Viper. I think it's because Viper has a play style that just not everybody finds enjoyable. I think that people have come to embrace the sliding and that kind of fun stuff in Deadlock, right? Because it's part of the movement tech and it feels good. But there's something about constantly sliding, I think that's a little like ADHD for people. That kind of, at least it is for me. Maybe I'm just a boomer, but I think a little bit takes away. People are like, I get it. I'm sliding. And I think that takes away sometimes from people wanting to play her. But if you enjoy Viper, Viper is actually very strong right now. Get your points into your 2 for the bonus damage. Get spirit damage in the early game and then transition into gun damage. Almost like exactly what they want Vindicta to do, except for you can get away with way, way less spirit damage. All you need is your 4-point AK spike, basically. And then you can transfer into just green and gun items after you get your 4-point AK spirit spike, because that's all you need for the early damage to get some kills going and flowing. Then we have got Warden. So Warden right now, as far as their win rate goes, their win rate is fine. It's, you know, towards the like upper echelon of win rates, but it's not a top 5 or anything. I'm a firm believer that Warden is probably the best ADC in Deadlock right now. For those that don't, ADC, attack damage carry. He has an extremely strong early game. Once again, one of those characters that can kind of go like 4-point AK spirit, really embrace like an ulti early and then just transfer into full gun. But this, like, he has a built-in shield. He has built-in movement speed. And when you get items like glass cannon on him, when you just build a ton of attack speed, his gun legitimately will kill you in like 7 shots. If you're a squishy character, late game Warden, body shots, like 7 shots. You're dead. Those 7 shots probably come out, I don't know, less than 1 second. So he has a time to kill of less than 1 second in the late game if he's fed. Extremely good farmer. Doesn't have to invest a lot into farming items, which means he gets to go more PvP DPS items because he can just naturally farm with his kit. Very strong right now. Very, very strong. Okay, before we get to these last 2 characters, let me double check this list right now. Make sure I agree with everything. Abrams, Celeste, Mo. Yeah, though, I mean, 7. Yep, 7 has to be up there. Warden, Hayes. I mean, honestly, Hayes being top of S, bottom of A is basically the same thing. I would move Drifter being better than Page here. Page, Lash, Ivy, Venator, Silver, Shiv, Victor, Billy. Billy, I'm going to drop down to B tier, the top of B tier. Just a little bit below that. Probably going to put Goober above Pocket. Going to drop down Rem here a little bit. I don't think realistically I can have Rem be that high in B, considering his win rate is truly so garbage. The rest of that looks pretty good. Mirage, Vindicta, Graves, bada bing. Honestly, Graves should probably be at the top of C tier right there. And then that looks good. Okay, a couple of little updates right there. All right, moving into our last two heroes, Wraith and Yamato. Wraith right now is in one of her most schmeh of metas. Like, not very often that Wraith is just like, fine. Not a common place for her to be in, but Wraith is just like, Wraith is fine. Like, if you need a carry on your team, Wraith fulfills that carry role. If you're asking me if she's my top pick, the answer is no. I mean, I would rather have Seven or Haze or Warden or quite a few other characters. But at the end of the day, if you queue up Wraith, you're guaranteeing that you've got somebody to late game scale for your team. And just guaranteeing that you have at least one M1 carry on your team is such a big deal. You cannot imagine how many games that we get into in Deadlock where the matchmaker just doesn't give you a single carry. Not one, you know? So guaranteeing that you're going to play a carry can be a really big deal for your team, because there's so many times you get into a game and you look around and you're like, guys, we're like 3 assassins, 2 supports, and a Billy. What do we do? You know, like, who's supposed to kill things late game? That does happen way too much. And finally, Yamato. Yamato as well, going to be like bottom of A tier, top of B tier, somewhere like around this section. And I'll put her like around top of B. Her and Billy, honestly, kind of similar in that regard. Not quite as good as the top end tanks, but they still provide that front line for your team. I think Yamato right now would actually enjoy a little picks and bans, because if you got, like, if Abrams was banned and you had, you know, Shiv was already picked, all of a sudden Yamato becomes more interesting, right? Where it's like, okay, like maybe the top 2 or 3 tankier characters have already been picked and banned, and they've got a Gray Talon on their team and a Vindicta. They've got some flyers. Like, all of a sudden Yamato becomes a lot more interesting, because she's like, oh, I'll just grapple onto them and go beat their asses while they're in the air, right? Get right up in their face. Having like, oh, we need Yamato, we can get mid secure. I'll ulti and like help us secure mid bosses because they've got a Dynamo, but I don't care about his ulti. Like, if there was more of a real picks and bans, I feel like she becomes more interesting right now, but she's just not quite generically as good as the other tanks in the game. And that, guys, is going to be our tier list for Eternus right now in Deadlock. Like I said earlier, this is a tier list that is based off of the actual in-game Eternus gameplay. So this does not take into account competitive at all. It doesn't take into account low ranks at all. This is at high level in-game gameplay. What are people playing? What are they winning with? Taking strongly into account win rates, but also the vibes of certain characters. So somebody like an Abrams just is a character that wins a lot, right? Mo just is a character that wins a lot, compared to, say, the ranking of Shiv and Mirage. Shiv and Mirage both having lower win rates in Eternus, but Shiv having more frequent opportunities where you go, oh, their Shiv is on fire, compared to, oh, their Mirage is on fire. And that is because Shiv is a little bit more of a selfish solo style of gameplay character. Mirage a little bit more reliant on his team actually synergizing, allowing him to split push, do that kind of stuff. And so even at Eternus level, it drops off in the gameplay, although both Shiv and Mirage super favored at like a competitive level right now, but not necessarily as good at an Eternus level gameplay. So hopefully this list helps you guys learn some characters to play, some characters that are performing well right now. Like I said, mostly confirmed this tier list on a combination of personal anecdotal evidence of who was doing well, plus the statistics to back it up with a couple of edge cases that we, of course, talked about. But this video will be up for you on YouTube if you want to catch all of the descriptions, all of the reasons for every single hero. That'll probably be up on our main YouTube channel tomorrow. You've made it to the end of the video. You've earned the opportunity to subscribe to the Twitchiest channel for free. That's right. If you subscribe now and ring that bell for notifications, it won't cost you a dime. But if you want to donate, that costs dimes. Dimes.